Hello again, everyone. I'm Dr. George Simon, and welcome to another edition of the new Character Matters program. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we've faced for so many decades now, and that has affected every aspect of our lives and all of our relationships, both on the small scale in our individual intimate relationships and on the community and worldwide scale as well. And toward that end, I've written several books, and I continue to post articles and do these podcasts in the hopes that we might restore character to its rightful place of importance once again. And today, I'm going to be talking about something I know will be somewhat controversial, because I must admit, I am out of step with a lot of my professional colleagues on the issue that I want to speak about today, namely shame and shamelessness. We're going to talk a lot about the difference between shame and guilt, what each entails, what healthy shamelessness looks like, what unhealthy shamelessness looks like, and the role of shame in our character formation. For many years now, most social scientists, psychological researchers, etc., have presented evidence and a perspective that pretty well casts shame as an undesirable commodity. I even hear folks talk about shame-absent parenting, where we're careful never to shame, or never to invite a person who is developing their own character at an early age to feel any sense of shame. And there is some legitimacy to this notion. First, it's important to understand that there's a difference between guilt, bad feelings that we might be invited to have when we do certain things that pose problems for us socially, and shame, which has much more to do with our self-image, what we think of ourselves. So guilt has to do with our behavior, what we've done, how we've conducted ourselves, and feeling badly about that. Whereas shame has to do with how we regard ourselves, positively or negatively. And there's a certain amount of legitimacy to the notion that is important to maintain a positive and healthy self-image. And therefore, it seems logical that we would fault ourselves only for errors in judgment, only for missteps in behavior, only for what we might have done that needlessly injured or creates problems, and not feel badly about who we are. But then we encounter a problem. We've been talking about malignant narcissism. Narcissism at the far end of the narcissism scale. Narcissism of a type, quality, and degree that causes huge problems for everyone. Causes problems for the character development of the individual. They will never grow positively in their potential to be a decent human being, remaining egocentric, remaining grandiose, remaining entitled, etc., etc. All of those qualities that accompany narcissism. So narcissism is not good for the individual. It's also not good for society at large, because narcissists inevitably, whether they are of the more compensatory or neurotic variety, or whether they are the more character-disturbed type that I write about so extensively. It makes no difference. Folks with these qualities are big trouble in relationships and create big problems socially. And one of the key features, one of the key aspects of their character makeup is their lack of shame. Interestingly enough, it's their shamelessness, whether it arises out of an incapacity to even experience shame or an absolute refusal to accept any negative self-evaluation. You see, what we do matters. Clearly, it does matter. But I've said this before, and I will say it again, and I will continue to say it despite the objections of some of my colleagues. It doesn't just matter what we do. Who we are matters too. How we want to see ourselves, how we want others to see us, what we think of ourselves. It matters, and we can get out of balance in either one of two ways. We can either think too little of ourselves, have too much toxic shame, or we can also think too much of ourselves and refuse to accept the fact that the way that we have put our character together, the way that we want the world to see us, and the way we prefer to see ourselves is in itself a problem. We've had it very, very wrong about this concept of shame. And there are disturbed characters among us, especially disturbed characters on the far end of the narcissistic spectrum, who are distinguished by their shameless behavior and by their shamelessness. They're aware of their behavior, and they're aware of the impact of their behavior. They're aware, but they do not care. And they also do not care how they look or appear. And they also do not care who they have made themselves out to be, how they have shaped themselves up. The person that they have allowed themselves to become. They're unabashedly proud of what most people find abhorrent or obnoxious or distasteful. I don't know if, from a professional standpoint, we will ever get the balance right. But I am here to assert over and over again that it's not just what we do, how we conduct ourselves, that matters. It's how we see ourselves, how we style ourselves, the way we operate, and our comfort level with the way we operate, with the image that we want to project, with how we want others to see us, and how we want to see ourselves. This matters. Character matters. And there are certain ways of being, not just doing, but even being, that ought to, by all rights, invite some shame. But the malignantly narcissistic among us are shameless. I can almost hear the parents of some folks saying, "Have you no shame? And of course the answer would be, well, no. It has to do with the capacity for empathy, with the capacity to care. And it's not just about the behavior. It's how you want to be seen. It's who you are. Character is not just about what you do. It's about how you want to see yourself, the person you want to be, the way you want to operate, the values you have embraced and surrendered yourself to. It's not just your conduct, but the manner in which you conduct yourself. So for all the good intentions, and for all the so-called research results, in my book, and I admit being out of step, and unashamedly so, it's not just important to care about what we do. It's also important to care about who we are on every stage of our journey toward character development and fulfillment. That's the main reason that I wrote my latest book, Essentials for the Journey. I have been taught by many of the best teachers being the folks that have lived the various circumstances and learned the various lessons. And they taught me that once certain principles are taken to heart and mastered through effort, we all have the potential to be people of notable character, of respect-worthy character. And that matters, perhaps today more than it's ever mattered before. Now you should know that I have spent a good deal of my professional career dealing with some of the most disturbed characters there are. And during that time, I have met a few individuals, not a lot, but a few individuals who, despite years and years of underdeveloped character reinforced by the predominant mores of society, and after a long trail of victimization in relationships, came to their senses. A select few came to their senses and began the arduous work of turning their lives around. And I can tell you with certainty that not one of these rare individuals who finally decided to grow and change in character and become better people did so out of a sense of guilt. It was only when they took that long, hard look in the mirror and no longer liked the person that they had allowed themselves to become that things began to change. They became uncomfortable with who they were, not just with what they had done, and resolved to become a better human being. Shame, or at least the capacity for it, saved them where guilt never did. Now, does this mean that to help a person grow in character, we need to shame them? No, it's not that. But what we should be on the lookout for, especially with our children, as they're growing in character, is their capacity for shame. And if we see shamelessness, it's a huge red flag for some big trouble down the road. So my colleagues have it partly right. Shame can be toxic. It's a poor influencing device to use when someone's growing in character and we're trying to help them form their character. We're trying to parent them. But is all shame bad? Absolutely not. And the capacity for it is one of the key signs you want to see for an individual who truly has the potential to be of admirable character. So despite what you read and despite what you hear, the concept of shame has taken a bad rap. Yes, without any question, it can be toxic and decimating to a person's sense of self if they are subjected to relentless, unnecessary, unwarranted shaming. We don't want to feel horrible about ourselves. And yes, it's important to feel badly primarily about what you might have done, either in ignorance or in a lack of full character development at the time, that might have hurt somebody else unnecessarily, that might have caused unnecessary pain and also, in the process, arrested your own character development. It's important to feel badly about the things that we do that we probably shouldn't have done. Just as it's important to feel badly about the things that we should have done that we have neglected to do. But it's also important to care about who you are at every stage of your growth and development. And you don't want to have such toxic shame that you live life pessimistically, feeling of no worth, feeling valueless. But you do want to have an honest self-reckoning about where you are with respect to your character growth and development, and whether you've got some work to do to make of yourself a better person, not just to do better, but to be better. And the evidence for what I am talking about is everywhere. You only have to look at how the folks at the extreme end of the narcissistic spectrum act. It's not that they just don't feel badly about what they do. They don't feel badly about what they do. But you can also see that they care not about how they style themselves, how they come across, the horrific image that they might project. Sadder still is the fact that in this age of entitlement and shamelessness, some of the ways that people behave that would have horrified us in earlier times don't seem to affect us as deeply. We're too sadly used to it. We're too sadly used to what we used to call shameful displays of character that have become commonplace, shameless displays of poor character. You can find more information on the topics of shame and shamelessness in several articles on my blog at drgeorgesimon.com. And you can find lots of material in all of my books about it with helpful anecdotes to help understand the issues better. All of my books being readily available on Amazon and through any other major bookseller. But I truly hope that my most recent effort, Essentials for the Journey, which can help anyone at any stage of their character development grow in character, gets both the acceptance and the positive word of mouth that I have enjoyed with all my other books. So once again, thanks for tuning in. Tune in again next time for another edition of The New Character Matters. Visit my blog, avail yourself of my work, and until next time, I'm Dr. George Simon. Again, thanks for tuning in. Take care.